Watch out what you said.
Yeah. And then just. Right, and do you have the clicker?
I do, yes.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Do we wait for people or should we jump right in?
So let's give it another minute or so. In the past, we generally had, what would you say, 8, 9, 10 on Zoom, and then
Yeah.
we did our first in person, what,
January, I think?
January, we had probably about 7 or 8.
Perfect,
Yeah, okay.
awesome.
So we also record them, so they'll go out on YouTube, and I can send you the link when it's out there, so you can circulate it as well. So,
Wonderful.
whoever comes in will, show up on the side.
Beautiful. Rosie, you rock. Thanks for putting on me.
If you click on anything on the Zoom, you don't have to click back on the presentation, or else the clicker won't work.
Got it. Just show up on the side so I can jump it like that. Awesome. Thank you folks very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Of course.
Awesome.
Well, we're doing right. Good afternoon, guys. Happy lunch. I'm Shannon Jackson with Green Mountain Solar, the senior solar advisor there. Been with them for about 3 years, over 3 years now, actually. This is my colleague.
Hi, I'm Megan. I'm the marketing manager with Green Mountain Solar, and I think my first day with GMS was almost a year ago today, so. Yeah. Yeah. So,
That's fair.
awesome.
I'm gonna be quick second.
Oh,
Is it a scroll action? Rather than
I
a
think
click?
she said go back.
Oh, I'm the wrong button.
Okay,
So we're located just in this side of the airport over in South Burlington, founded in 2017. We have, I was just telling Renee, we have an office here, 2 offices here in Vermont, so we cover the full state, as well as we also have an office over in New Hampshire, Granite State Solar. So, different names, same company, we work as a team. A lot of times when we're selling tons here in Vermont, we're also doing tons of things with batteries here in Vermont. So we're actually bringing in their install team because we are blowing the, gates up the community over here with renewable things. We were recently awarded, Best of Business, for 2024. So we're very appreciative of that award. And what's nice about us is we keep everything in-house. We don't subcontract. We have master electricians, journeymen, apprentices, anyone who comes on site, we're gonna have at least someone who's licensed and leading the team and has their working towards a master, if not a master themselves. We also have all the design team in-house, we have permitting team in-house, we have communications, we have sales. It's nice because there's no middle people involved, we're able to keep everything as a turnkey operation. The one thing that we do subcontract is if there's any for ground mounts, we need to have an excavator come in to dig a trench. And we have not brought it up on ourselves to buy an excavator yet, so, that's the only thing, but it's a kind of an unavoidable cost. We do solar both on roofs. I know this building has solar on its roof. We do roofs, we do ground mounts. We also do batteries. We do heat pumps and we do EV chargers. We'll cover all 4 of these things today. And I'm sure in your lines of work, all of them are relevant. Do you want to jump through some of the benefits going solar?
yeah, absolutely. So, some of the things we like to talk about with folks who are maybe considering solar or wondering why go solar. The first one is really the financial benefits. So, it's not only an investment in, your financial future in that it's kind of like swapping out a rental payment for a mortgage. It's investing in future value of your energy, ultimately allowing you to own your energy down the line. Also, one Zillow study actually showed that, looking at comparable properties, houses with solar actually sold for 4% higher on average. So there's actually value that you're building in the home itself, and that's definitely something as realtors and as you guys are looking to kind of highlight solar to maybe potential future customers or tenants. It's really that value that you're building in your home if you put solar panels on it, or your building, I should say. Also, I think obviously big environmental reasons to go solar, so reduced emissions, not having to rely on fossil fuels to power your home. I think one of the most the biggest contributor to climate crisis is actually home energy consumption. Being able to swap that out, for solar is a great, environmental option. And a lot of the reason why folks in Vermont love to go solar. And then the final one that we speak about quite a bit is, gaining your energy independence. So what that means is if you have solar panels on your roof, obviously when the sun's shining, you're generating your own electricity. And that then means that, if you are pairing that with battery, for example, and the grid goes out, which we all know, sometimes that happens. We have bad weather events in Vermont all the time. You've got that reliable source of energy from the sun, and then coupled with the battery backup to allow that seamless energy, when that happens. I don't know if there's any other things you.
No, I get to go out in the field and meet with the customers and actually kind of decipher what's their driving factors for why they sell this quote. And it's fun, some people are looking at, the environmental side of things, they could have, they bleed green, basically, they wanna go as close to net zero as they can, and throwing solar is a great way to do that. Others, it's all about the finances, and some people are looking at more of a legacy gift to their family property or things, whether it's a lake house or a ski house. A lot of people are thinking about if we invest right now in a solar project, we can therefore, be in charge of our energy consumption and our production in the future and set up future generations that will have this property to benefit. So it's always fun to kind of figure out what's the driving factor, and it can be a combination of them all. I've been working with a lot of nonprofits recently because of recent legislation passed that was a solar for all legislation. 2 years ago, legislation passed that actually made it so nonprofits can take advantage of the tax credit through a system called elective or direct pay. So whether it's libraries or schools, even churches now, before we'll get to the benefits or the incentives for solar, before they don't have taxable, aren't able to take, they're not paying taxes to different things in a nonprofit or a municipality or a religious organization, so they weren't able to get the tax credit. Now, with the direct pay or electric pay options, they can get that as a payment, a direct payment, and actually basically be paying the same for the solar system that other people would be, whether you're a business or an individual buying solar. So it's fun, and those people obviously are setting examples for the community, whether it's a school or it's a church, or it's even the town of Shelburne is looking to do a large solar array to offset all of their office buildings. And it's fun to really think about the impact it's gonna have, not just for the bills, but also for the community and thinking forward into the future. Really basic, and I love this cartoon. How does solar work? I know, Brian, you probably know about it well because we have solar panels on this roof right now, and today's a beautiful day to talk about it. Sun is shining, it's coming, it's hitting the panels, the crystals on there, and the silicon system is actually using it to excite the electrons. It then goes into an inverter, which on your system, there's a bunch of inverters on the side. There's a white box, solar edge inverters. Others systems have the actual inverters tucked up underneath the panels called microinverters, and that's where every single panel has a different inverter. Basically what's happening is the sun hits, goes from raw electricity that's created, goes through the inverter to make it into usable electricity, AC electricity that all our plugs and everything runs on, and then it goes into your house. And if need be, if you're producing more than enough, than your building or property is using, the excess will then go into the grid and you'll get credited in your account. These are the trends, this is marketing.
Yeah, so a couple of things that we see really impacting interest and driving interest in solar. A big one is obviously electricity rates. So when electricity rates go up for regular, electricity that you pay for at a GMP or whatever your provider is, when those rates go up, obviously the proposition for solar becomes more compelling and interesting because as soon as you put those panels on your roof, you're kind of covering your electric bill. And if those bills every month are really high, then going solar is a great alternative. And so in Vermont, we've actually seen kind of electricity rates over the past 5 years kind of steadily increasing. And obviously that's driven interest in the solar market. And I guess the other big thing here is when you don't know by how much your electricity rates are going to increase, when that's kind of an unknown factor, being able to kind of lock in a monthly electric bill by purchasing solar, whether you buy them outright or you lease them, you know how much you're paying for electricity each month. It's a variable that you're taking out of the equation. So that's a big one.
On that front,
Yeah.
historically, when we do cash flows or payback timelines for people that are going solar, considering it, We actually use this whole cash flow things. I'd love to send to you or your customers that are interested in solar. But historically, over the past 50 years, electric rates have gone up every year by 2.5%. This past year, Green Mountain Power, which covers about 72% of the state, actually raised their rate by 4%. Vermont Electric Co-op, which has about 20% of the share of electrical services in Vermont, last year raised it by 8.9%. So it's going to go up. It's something you can bet on, pretty much guarantee that it's going to go in one direction only, which, as Megan was saying, does make going solar and being in control and basically stabilizing your electrical needs makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think Shannon mentioned we have a business in New Hampshire, and the rates there actually, I think they increased by over double 2 years ago in 2022, and that's when we had a massive influx of interest in solar, and we actually were turning people away at that point. There was so much interest, and actually since then a lot of competition has entered that market. So yeah, it's a big driver for solar. The other, sorry.
You guys prefer to ask questions as we go along, or do you want to?
Yeah, let's go for it.
And it's gonna be covered later, please don't stay, tell me that.
Yeah.
So one of the things in my head right now too is, I'm thinking of three properties, 2 apartment buildings that I own or a house. You know, is there a recommended age that the roof be when you install them? Cause one's probably later in there, one's pretty new, so. And then I'm thinking about certainly case studies to see, is it worth it in that specific area? I've got to imagine,
Yeah.
you know, you guys take a look at that.
Oh, yes. So when we go out to site, we actually, do a full assessment of the property. We're measuring roofs, we're measuring solar access. We're making sure that, the customer knows that when they're buying a solar system, it comes with warranties. The panels we use come with a 25-year warranty, both on product and efficiency, and the inverters, depending on if you use microinverters or string inverters like we do here, 25 or 12-year warranties. So the best situation, if you can, is to match up a new roof, which asphalt shingle roofs usually last 25, 30 years. Match it up with a new solar system so that when you get out of that warranty period and you might consider either updating the solar system is going to be producing still at between 87% and 90% efficient of the panel. So by no means does it mean 25 years is the lifespan of the solar system. It just means that's what the company's warranty it for. But that being said, when I talk to customers a lot, we'll look at their shingles. If it's a metal roof, that's usually a 50-year lifetime for like corrugated metal or standing seam roofs. So usually that has a little more wiggle room. But asphalt shingle roofs, especially with, people that are looking at a new property or selling their home and thinking about solar, it's a conversation you should have. And if it is towards the more senior timeline of a asphalt shingle roof, I would recommend putting a solar system on with a newer roof if it's in the cards. Just because I've had a number of customers that say, listen, I really want solar, it's my driving factor. I want to put it on now, and I recognize that in 5-10 years, I might have to take the solar panels off, place the roof, and then put them on. But obviously, that's going to be a cost that could have been avoided if it was a new roof.
We may get this later, so come out, so we'll answer that later. For the apartment owners, like one thing I'm thinking of the 2 buildings I'm toying with, the roof's 2 years old, so it's probably still a decent time to talk with you guys about, is tenants in that building pay their own utilities. And I think we have 2, a house accountant in one of each building. How does that work? The savings to the landlord, how's that gonna work with tenants who pay the utilities, and you ever potentially bring the utilities down, or is that metering and we get a paycheck irregardless?
So it really will be situational, depending on what the landlord wants. If there is a house meter where some people have, a property, say in Williston, that's on Green Mountain Power, and they have a house meter for the outside lights or hallway lights or communal things, laundry things in the basement, stuff like that, that's not associated with a certain apartment in the building. You can have everything offset that meter, bill it for that, and then the landlord is benefiting without having to worry about which individual apartments are using. Other landlords I've talked to have said, hey, I want to fill my roof, and when I have a new lease, I might start incorporating the utilities into that lease agreement, different things, and they recognize that they're producing more or about what they and they're getting it for a less kilowatt hour price than they would have if they bought the power from the local entity. The third option is if you are in the same utility. So if you have a house, personal house in Green Mountain Power territory, and your property that you are a landlord for is in Green Mountain Power, you could basically put all the panels on your rental property, offset a house meter or whatnot, and then offset your personal meter as well. And it's really just a digital accounting situation.
That's your group net meter.
That's group net meter.
And it would have to be with the same electric company?
Yeah, so unfortunately, when people have a property in Burlington and they live up in the Sugar Bush area, Burlington Electric only covers the area of Burlington, and Green Mountain Power will probably be their other one. So you can't mix and match, but as long as it's within the same utility, you can have some fun. And so a lot of people who have, say, a sugaring operation as well as their main house and they're on different meters can go about group net metering things together.
What if it's family related? Like my son is in Johnson, I'm in Vermont.
So it's, the way it came about was sixties when solar was, first really introduced on a large scale. Farmers actually came to the legislature and the Public Utility Commission and said like, hey, I have 16 different meters on my property. I don't want to put solar in every single building. I want to put it only on the milking barn. And so they said like, great, we'll come up with this idea of group net metering. So as long as the meters are within the same utility, so whether it's your son or it's your property or it's your neighbor down the street and you choose to group net meter together, you can go forth and do so.
It's pretty cool. Yeah, and speaking of net metering, another kind of trend that we see, so that really increases or decreases demand, depending on what that policy is doing, is the amount that you can earn for every kilowatt hour of power that you produce. So with net metering today, Shannon, you probably jump in on this one, what's the kind of exchange rate that you get for?
It's a negative 2-cent adder, which very
Yeah,
contradictory terms, but basically means that for the,
yeah,
for what the electric company is giving to you or crediting you for anything that you send to them for electricity, is 2 cents less than what you're paying for electricity when you pull it from them.
and so that number is continually changing. I think there's some legislature.
Well,
coming
6
out.
years ago, it used to be you got more for what you produced and gave back than what you were charged. So there truly was an adder,
Yeah,
a positive adder.
and every year since, I think it's kind of slowly.
We've seen it
declining.
every 2 years, the Public Utility Commission reassesses net metering policies and
Yeah,
mostly to the utility. And we've seen that kind of go from 6 cents to 4 cents to 2 cents to even negative 2 cents. And it is rumored and likely that by the end of summer, if not by the end of July, it's going to be a negative 4 cent adder. So it will be even less than it is today. So it means the next couple of months are going to be a lot of permitting craziness and a lot of people wanting to get in before that policy goes into place. Because as long as they file their CPG or the certificate of public good that establishes their rate, their net meter rate for the next 10 years, they can lock it into today's rate before things change.
yeah. And then, obviously, severe weather patterns. I mean, last summer with the floods, we saw a massive increase in interest in battery in particular, just from all the outages that we saw. So that's obviously a big driver for solar plus storage, so adding that battery backup to your solar system. And then broadly speaking, just more climate change awareness as we're seeing these more increasing worse bad weather events. Folks are becoming more and more curious about learning more about the technology and how
Is it solar and the battery, or can you just get battery alone?
you can just get a standalone battery as well. So if you get a standalone battery, it'll just charge up from the grid. And then you've got a store of energy there. If, there's an outage, you can back up your house with that power. The benefit of adding solar to the battery is then if that outage happens, you can recharge, and that's really nice. And that's a big benefit that we see, and a lot of our customers are really keen
But
on.
it is nice, speaking from my personal experience, I chose to go solar first, and now we're looking at batteries. Some other people choose to go batteries first because that's their priority, and then maybe down the road, they'll go solar. So you can phase out a project in a number of ways.
Yeah, and so we actually did a really interesting study earlier this year in February time. It was a brand study, understanding kind of people's interest in solar and their consideration of it. We have the company in New Hampshire, so we went out to Vermont customers and New Hampshire customers. It was a randomized sample panel in both states, and we asked the question, to what extent have you considered purchasing solar panels for your home? And I don't know if you guys can see super well on here, but it's pretty interesting because there's actually data out there from the Solar Association that says that across the state of Vermont, about 20% of our electricity generated in the state of Vermont is from solar panels. in our independent study, we actually saw that in terms of the percentage of people who answered that they have solar panels on their home, it's 18%, so super close to that kind of 20% number, so a very representative sample here. In New Hampshire, it's slightly less, about 9%. So the penetration of solar isn't quite as high in New Hampshire as it is Vermont. Definitely folks considering solar. So the second bar here is those who considered solar and are highly likely to purchase solar at some stage. Considered and somewhat likely, another 22% of folks, not likely 17%. And then interestingly, this one here, have not considered, but open to learning more, is about 11% of folks. So obviously that's an education challenge, right? Is what is the benefit of solar to me? Should I be considering putting that on my home? And that's kind of us and then marketing and communication side, kind of getting that kind of out there, and Shannon as well with sessions like this to kind of inform folks on, going solar and how that might be beneficial. So just some interesting data points there to share from more of a brand study side that.
What are you finding when you work with, clients, different things? Have you seen a change throughout the years of interest in solar, or is it remaining pretty constant?
In the past, it's been a lot of condos that I've been
Okay,
selling, so that depends on the association, they
completely.
can do that.
Hmm.
And those are second home people,
Okay.
so no interest there.
Exactly, that makes
But
sense.
the individual homes, I personally had a Tesla,
Mhm.
and I kind of promoted that, like, you're away in the winter on the weekend, whatever, it's good to have a Tesla, because it's good for 3 days, and then you're back, and
Sure.
deal with what you lost in your refrigerator or something like that, but
Totally.
most of the homes have tree covering, so that's a big issue. It's like, you gotta clear some trees. And then if you're in an area that you can't just clear trees, because you're the association, the houses that are in this little
Yep,
development, they won't allow clear cut. like that.
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit of a challenge. That's what I found.
Yeah.
What would you say?
I've seen a lot more buyers excited by solar already being on houses, even if there's a solar loan that needs to be transferred, which I have found change in just the last year or two of people's appetite towards that. I don't deal with a ton of people like after purchasing the home in terms of like coming to me for solar recommendations. But I do think that the general public's appetite for solar has increased recently. And in having conversations with friends who are like first time home buyers or move up home buyers right now, they really like the potential of having solar already installed. And
Certainly.
yeah, and I've got a few friends who just put solar on their houses, so. Yeah, appetite's increasing for sure.
What you've seen, especially with new builds, people are really thinking about either putting solar on initially or making it solar ready.
Yeah.
Basically putting chases in the up and down, everything, so you could easily tap into the, roof and put the wires and terminal and stuff like that, so.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see where things go, because I think that we gotta do something.
Yeah.
Our winter was house off this year.
Absolutely. I'm not a quitters on the front line as much as I used to, I found some buyers were really interested, then other buyers were like, didn't wanna deal with the lease, all that stuff. The only negative I've ever had of it is transitioning the leases, or the contract. Not sure if you guys were involved, but I remember we couldn't get responses, then I finally put something on, it wasn't Tesla at the time, what was the name?
Solar City or.
Yeah, or Elon's company, whatever it was. Finally wrote it on the Facebook wall, and then within 4 hours, we had schedules. And I'm like, no, it has nothing to do with it, I'm like,
Of course not, it's just coincidental.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 For a variety of reasons, we don't offer leases. We don't find them to be the most economically beneficial things to customers. And also I've heard in talking to a number of realtors, people in the industry, what a nightmare it can be in the transferring of them.
Cause it can be a huge expense to the customer, depending on how long is left on that lease, so.
Yeah.
It's a challenge.
Or if they don't wanna deal with it, getting Sunrun or whoever it is that's doing the leases to come out and take back their products. It can be
Yeah.
pretty negative experience.
I won't admit that why buyer and why, but, so.
Yeah.
I personally am more interested now in including with the apartment buildings in particular.
Great, Angela.
I think it's interesting to hear that more and more consumers are looking for this, and I think as landlords are developing new properties or are looking at
how can I set myself apart from all of these other units that are out in the market? This almost feels like an amenity, like it's a weird amenity, but you know, you do solar and you have EV chargers, and then all of a sudden you have something you can advertise that, hey, we have this and we're considering and looking at, you know, green solutions or being environmentally conscious, and I think that is going to go a long ways for making rental properties more enticing, in a tight market already.
Yeah, being very forward looking.
Yeah.
I mean, we work with O'Brien Brothers, so they're a big property developing company and they're building a fully net zero neighborhood. You guys have probably heard about it.
Just over the highway.
I live on the street.
Yeah,
Oh, do you?
we're doing all the solar and battery install for that project, and I mean, they're monetizing it. It's a
Right.
resiliency package that they're selling to their end client who's getting a fully electrified home, and that's very intriguing, like you said, to those folks who are maybe first time home buyers or moving into their new home that's got a fully electric suite of products. It's pretty amazing. So definitely that.
I would love for us to, 5 years down the road or 10 years down the road, kind of look at homes without solar, the same we look at with hotels that still advertise they have Wi-Fi. It's like
Yeah,
everywhere it's Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's a hygiene factor, yeah.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
We just did a day of volunteering, it was down in, it was Chelsea, it was a Habitat for Humanity project, they took Vermont modular homes that hadn't been best cared for, transitioned to mobile home parks, fixed them up. And then we're selling them to families that weren't, met certain economic criteria, so it's a great way to further homeownership, but every one of them had solar.
Wow.
Every one that they were putting, which was awesome, just to
Well,
see,
smart.
keeping it affordable and, yeah, I like.
Nice.
That's great.
Awesome.
This is a slide I really wanted to kind of focus with you on. The verbiage we've been using is very much home focused. It's important to note that businesses, as we're standing under one, also have the ability to go solar. And that can be, brick and mortar down the street, or it can be someone's who's got a remote office in their house and they run things, out of their home, things like that too. A business. Everyone knows about the 30% federal tax credit that's available to everyone that goes solar. It's both for batteries, it's both for solar, and it's pretty seamless. It's in place right now, 30% until 2032. I don't have a crystal ball, I can't tell what's gonna happen after that, but it seems to be, at least from what we're seeing politically, a very big focus. And I love that we have 8 years left in this stable zone. In Vermont, we also have a business tax incentive of an additional, on top of the 30%, an additional 7.2%. This is not talked about nearly enough, and when I talk to businesses, it is like wonderful surprise to deliver them, because it really, an additional 7.2% doesn't sound like much, but it helps really speed up the payback period for a solar system. On top of that, they also have the ability to depreciate 85% of the cost of the total system over the course of 5 years. When you think about a solar project or a battery project, that 30% that's available is on the total cost of the project. It's not just on the parts and pieces, it's on the warranties, it's on the installation, it's things you did to get solar or battery ready. So if you had to build a wall to put the batteries on in your home because you can't plug them into a concrete wall because of leaking and different things like that, that money that you spent, 30% of that can be included in that well. Additionally, if you took down trees, if you had to sister your rafters in your attic, whatever you have to do to get solar ready, besides re-roofing. That used to be, before 2022, when they renewed the legislation, you could actually include, if you had to re-roof your house, get 30% off of that project, which a lot of people loved. They closed that loophole, and now it is specifically written that you can't include the cost of roofing. You can include the cost of patching a roof, but you can't do a full re-roof. I love this aspect of it. Obviously, the caveat is we are not tax advisors, you should talk to your accountant. But the thing is, we love to inform you of the opportunities. And especially for businesses that are looking for ways to lower their fixed costs. Whether you're a massive industry or you're a guy who has a beekeeping thing in his backyard and wants to, beekeeping, which I've learned about a lot recently, has the centrifuges they use to spin up the honey and things like that. Actually, it's pretty, if you have enough of an operation, it's pretty intensively electronically intense. So when you're talking to your clientele, when you're thinking about it and over dinner with your partner, recognize that a business in Vermont, and every state has different solar policies. Vermont kind of keeps us quiet, I'm not sure why, but it's something that really benefits a lot. I just, on Poker Hill up in, Underhill, brought this up to a horse nutrition, and stable situation, and they jumped on it within hours of me sending a proposal, so it's something to think about. This portion of the tax credit is tied into whatever this number is, so 8 years from now, if this changes, goes up or down, this will be, the same ratio that it is presently, so. If you have questions with this, please shoot me an email, you have my card in front of you, as well as Green Mountain Solar is easy to remember.
Yeah, it's solid information.
Yeah, and it amazes me, I know that our company is starting to roll out more, but it's something that I feel our state really shines. I spoke with we both spoke actually, a group of international delegates from an energy conference came and wanted to learn about solar in the industry, as well as, I think they went to the biofuel plant and different things like that. And we tried to focus on things that made us stand out. Or the battery programs we're gonna talk about with Green Mountain Power was something. The business incentives was another thing that really makes Vermont kind of shine in the solar world, which is nice. Let's switch gears into batteries right now. Megan, you're up.
Okay. Yeah, benefits of battery backup. So obviously, if you have an outage like you experienced, keeping your food and everything still good if your, power goes off, it's that extra power in case of emergency. Also a big benefit is a little intangible, but it's just that peace of mind if you do end up encountering an outage. More power on site, so less reliance on the grid, which, as we kind of discussed earlier, is increasingly dated and increasingly unreliable at times, especially in the event of these bad weather events. It's also a clean source of energy. So again, kind of when we're speaking about the kind of impacts on the environment, obviously this is it's electrifying your home. So allowing you to have that easily accessible power on site that's electric. The tax credit that Shannon was just talking about, the 30% is applicable to batteries as well. So that's a great savings, and with these power walls, which can be pricey, that's a big savings for folks who do decide to go. And we'll talk about it in a future slide, but there's the ESS program, which sounds like you've taken advantage of already, which further reduces the cost of going with a battery backup system, a Tesla Powerwall through GMP. They've got a great program for that. Also reduced noise. So some folks are kind of weighing up whether they should go for a generator as their backup or a battery. And obviously batteries, they're quiet, that you don't hear them as you would with a generator kicking on your property. Also, you're not relying on the fossil fuel that's needed and the maintenance needed when you're running a generator. So it does have a lot of additional benefits that I guess is why we've seen the demand increase so much in the past year or so.
We really have. And just this week alone, I had a couple customers weighing the choice between a generator and a battery backup system.
Yeah.
And the big thing that, it's leading towards they might move forward with the battery backup system is the convenience of it. A battery backup system, it's instantaneous when an outage happens. A lot of times homes that had experienced outages don't realize they had an outage until they look at their phone or they get a call from the neighbor saying, "How are your lights on?" So it's nice. It really does take care of you. It's also generators, which I'm sure, in Vermont, some places, especially on the hills of the mountains, different things, need some sort of backup power because they're on the end of the line. And when an outage happens, they're either out for a very long time or they're out frequently because of the winds rattling the lines and whatnot like that. So many homes in Vermont have a backup system. Generators, if it's a whole home generator or even it's one in your garage that you have to pull out of the garage and plug in and start it up, takes a lot of work. And they have to run and, every Wednesday, basically, they run for an hour to make sure the pipes are clean and different things like that. If it's attached to your home, and if it's just sitting there, you need to drain the gas. And I've heard of the headaches. I was up on Bolton Access earlier today, and a woman was saying how much she hated her generator, so much so that she just doesn't use it anymore. Batteries are very much the same with solar. It's very much a set it, forget it philosophy, where it's, you buy it, obviously, it's an expense up front, but it takes care of itself. And when you compare the cost of the battery backup system to the generator system, yes, XY axis is going to be an upfront cost, but that's going to be where it stops. Has a 10-year warranty, it has, it's a very smart system, so you can monitor it from your cell phone or your tablet, and it's not going to ever have to have refueling that you pay for or maintenance. Generators, obviously, it's about maybe 3/4 the cost for installation and the parts and pieces, and then it's every year, probably $1,000 in fuel, depending if it's a whole home or what size generator you have. Plus, maintenance can be an absolute bear, and all the factors.
Yeah.
We offer a whole variety of batteries. As you saw from this slide here, all the pictures in this slide are actually jobs we've done. So this is actually over in South Burlington. We have a home that just put in 10 power walls. It's a unique situation. We usually recommend for most homes 2 power walls. This is a smart home, so they actually have, I don't know if you guys are Marvel fans, but they have a smart home service, kind of like Jarvis. You can speak and say like, hey, turn the radio, I want the temperature to be this, and just talk to, I think it's called, I don't know what's it called, it's Jarvis, some name. It's
I like
like a British name. But it actually has 5 rows here and then 5 rows on top. It's a beautiful, beautiful array. Probably 87% of our battery projects we do are Tesla right now. A number of other batteries that we install are Enphase batteries. We are starting to install Franklin Home batteries. The beauty about the new Tesla Powerwall, as well as the Franklin whole home, is you can actually put them outside. So some people are either concerned about the very small risk of a fire in their home, because it is a lithium-based battery, or they don't have space in their utility closet and they want to find a space for it. So the fact that we can now, the battery technology continues to improve, and the new battery technology is able to be put in our sub-zero winters outside is really exciting. We've also done Sonnen batteries, which we don't recommend. We now also do LG batteries. There's a lot of alternative batteries that we do, but the scale that Tesla does for batteries, the way they're able to, economies of scale bring their costs so low, and the reliability of these batteries is just second to none right now. I am in no way a big fan of Elon Musk. I think his politics are ridiculous. I think he is a wahoo. But the fact is, he makes a phenomenal product that when we install a Tesla Powerwall in a home, knock on wood, the only reason we're going back is because they either want more or they're looking to add solar. It is a one-stop shop for us. It's not something we have to worry about. With every battery I mentioned on the other side, we have to have constant situations. The calls we hate is when there's a weather occurrence and someone says, Shannon, we installed our battery backup system and a communication error happened or something. We don't have power during this 4-hour outage. We take care of them. We've troubleshot them and we are able to do them. But unfortunately right now, the other battery companies, it's a noticeable economic difference between, $4,000 or $5,000 more for the same size battery backup system between the two. But there are options out there, and I like to promote them for what other customer wants, because some people see that and are willing to pay the extra money to not have Tesla in the house.
Yeah.
Other people who have the same attitude don't mind putting a piece of duct tape across Tesla.
But the evolution of batteries is fascinating, and we actually did a podcast on it and interviewed one of the chief product officers of a big battery company, Enphase. So if you guys are interested in learning more about battery technology, that's definitely a resource that's out there. It's the Renewable Roundtable, if you're interested in listening and learning more. Cool. So, similar study that same study that we did on the solar side, we also asked how likely folks would be to purchase a battery backup system for their home. Again, I don't know if you can really see color here, but this dark green, that's 25%, and then a little bit lighter green, 21%. So about 46% of people are either extremely likely or likely to purchase a battery backup system for their home. And I mean, this, like I said, what's driving this demand is really these bad weather events that we've seen over the past year or so. And we've installed about 400 batteries over the past 3 years. And year over year, if we compare how many batteries we did last year versus this year, 260% increase. So this is a massive industry. And I think the other thing that's really driving this is the GMP ESS program. So Shannon will talk a little bit about that. But that's the battery lease program that sounds like some of you are familiar with, and that's really driving the cost down, making it more accessible, and giving folks that access. to battery backup.
Yeah, I've been with the company for 3 years and seen the incredible growth we've had. We've actually gone from having a single dedicated battery backup team, installation team, to 3 of them. So I only expect that to expand from there. And it's exciting where things are going. Real quick, I want to jump ahead. This is Green Mountain Power's map of coverage. So basically, anywhere south of, Cornwall basically is all GMP territory. North of there, obviously, it's more of the mountain ranges where it's Vermont Electric Co-op up in the islands and whatnot, Washington Electric Co-op, and then municipalities such as Lyndonville, Morrisville, Light Electric. There's 17 different electric companies in Vermont. GMP is king. And thus, everyone in that territory has access to take advantage of their lease program. GMP, when they launched this, it was very popular and they only got approved to put in 500 systems a year. As of a year ago, went to the Public Utility Commission, talked about how popular it was, and they lifted the cap. So now the floodgates are open and people, we're installing probably 120 a month individually on us, not to mention all the other companies that are installing them as installers for GMP. This here details the information or the program overview of what the lease program is. It's basically you get 2 Tesla Powerwalls. So that's 27.0 kilowatt hours of battery capacity storage. Most homes use somewhere between 10 and maybe 20 kilowatt hours daily without changing their electrical habits. So this system's going to get you close to over a day, maybe 2 days without changing your habits. If you are aware of what you're doing, if you're not running the dishwasher, not using your jacuzzi tub, not doing things that have huge loads that maybe are luxurious goods, you can probably stretch that out without any solar to about 2 or 3 days. The agreement's for 10 years. At the end of 10 years, you get the opportunity to extend that lease for another 5 years at no additional cost. And the cost of the program is $55 per month on your monthly bill from GMP for 10 years, or you can pay it all at once for $5,500 upfront. Tesla is the main, there's 4 different batteries that are allowed in this program: Tesla, Enphase, Franklin Home, Whole Home, and I believe there's still a Generac battery on there that's still allowed. Primarily, we're doing just Tesla in this program. We're a proud partner. We're always installing them. I think there's 2 crews out today installing them, and the other batteries with the guy that bought it. GMP owns the batteries, so they're liable for any of the situations any maintenance or things like that. And the agreement is basically you're getting the battery in your home and it's going to be there for emergencies. So GMP, when it's not an emergency, when it's a bright sunny day and there's very little chance there's going to be an outage, really only if someone goes off the road and hits a pole or a squirrel gets hungry and chews a wire, there's really no chance there's going to be an outage. GMP is actually going to use your battery as part of the way to offset their peak electric needs. And so instead of GMP hanging out the nose to go to Hydro-Quebec in the summer when everyone's using their ACs, or firing up a coal-fired power plant down in Connecticut and sending the power north, they're able to tap into this microgrid of batteries and not have to spend as much. They save money, and you have the reliable battery in your home for those, emergency situations, storms, high wind situations. If ever there's, an apocalypse, you have a battery in your house. While they don't guarantee 100% of the time you're gonna have the battery, they do ahead of a storm, they'll text you or email you and say, hey, there's a noise for coming, we're gonna make sure your battery's charged, and you're gonna have it at full capacity at least a day and a half before that storm hits. So they take care of you as much as they can. Obviously, they can't control everybody driving around, they can't control hungry squirrels, but for the most part, you're set. If ever, if a storm came out of nowhere, they could charge that battery from the grid within 2 to 3 hours. So it's a wonderful program. It's very popular. And I'm only thinking that it's going to get more popular. So when you are I would recommend when you talk to your interested people that want battery backup systems, this is a great opportunity to look for a way to get a battery backup system in your home for a much reduced cost. $5,500 for 2 batteries is about 1/3 the cost after the tax credit of 2 batteries if you purchase them. So it speaks for itself. Any questions on this? I think it's great, and it's the easiest thing remote.
I can add a detail because I
Please.
just installed them in a rental property.
Awesome.
And I hold one side for a short-term rental, I've got travel nurse in it right now. But the second side, I approached my tenant, I was trying to figure out, it's a high outage area. If I could split the one battery and Green Mountain Power let me, the tenant was interested. And I participated in the program twice, and so the tenant has the $55 a month. And that's transferable when she moves out to the next tenant,
It's this,
as long as they like sign an agreement for it. So if you've got properties
I like that.
for rent in Green Mountain Power that have outages occasionally, or in my case, I went forward with it because it was an Airbnb for convenience for my guests. It was a good option.
Awesome.
I know, I don't wanna be seen as hypocritical. We're pretty adamantly against solar leases, but we're very much pro battery leases. I think it's because, for a lot of reasons, it's working with a local entity. GMP isn't having national policies. If I have an issue, situation such as like, hey, GMP, I have this weird question for you. I can call the director of this program, Craig Carrera, and get an answer within a few hours. Or put him in direct contact with the realtors or the landlord or the individual person who's interested, and they're super responsive. I also love that with this lease program, this is not changing. It's not a yearly increase of like, oh, by the way, we study the market, we're gonna raise it by 4% every year. It's, you could pay it all at once, and never have another cost for your battery system. Or you can choose to, spread it out over time, as my financial advisor would recommend to me. I like to pay things off, but, Corey might have other thoughts. But yes, I love the availability and the fact that working with someone that if I needed to, I could go into GMP headquarters, sit down with Craig and be like, let's work through this. I think it is for everyone, but I'm sure there's people that would love to have batteries that they don't have another person pulling from. That's the only real situation. If you have a person that wants to use their batteries with a solar system at night, they need to, in the GMP program, have the batteries at full capacity for GMP to pull when they want to. And if the home is using that power as well, they're actually gonna be, the controls of the Tesla surface and different things are going to be limited for the participants in this program than they would be if you own the battery. If you own a battery and, no one else is able to dive into it, you could in the evenings, use that power you've saved up during the day to then, not pull from the grid at all at night, and actually be kind of grid independent for 8 or 9 months of the year. And it's really just the winter months where you need to, benefit from that net metering agreements and pull from the bank of credits you created throughout the year, say that. So there's two sides of the coin, but it's economically, this speaks for itself. Heat pumps.
Cool. So heat pumps. I'm actually in the process of building a home right now, and we're looking at different ways to electrify our home, and we're going to use air source heat pumps. The ones that we sell, we do Mitsubishi. I don't know that we do other ones and any other
We've done
models.
Fujitsu, it's usually Mitsubishi Fujitsu, the premium ones.
Yeah, and I guess the main value proposition there is efficient temperature control, so the ability to really regulate the temperature in the rooms in which you've got the heat pumps more efficiently, reduce carbon footprint. So again, it's pulling the air from the outside, converting it and using it to heat and cool your space indoors. So it's really not using any kind of fossil fuel as you would with traditional heating sources. And then there's also some really great incentives that you might all be familiar with, but through Efficiency Vermont, they have a lot of great rebates. I think it's up to like $2,000 on heat pumps in particular. So, and I'm sure they've got many other ones there as well. So, again, just using kind of some of those local rebates and incentives to make it more affordable, are really the main reasons folks end up deciding.
And there's actually in that bill that passed in 22 included a federal incentive as well. It's 30% of the heat pump project up to $2,000. And so when you're looking at a multiple heat pump project, a lot of times people, if they have the ability to, will say, hey, I'm gonna do one heat pump this year, get my maximum benefit. And then I do my bedroom next year, get my maximum benefit. It's a yearly up to $2,000, 30% tax credit that's available on that front. On the local incentives, Efficiency Vermont has it based on the size of the heat pump you install. And that could be, you could install 17 heat pumps and it'd be the same incentive per heat pump that you're installing.
I assume you probably help people map out what rebates may be available.
Yes. It's very specific, and I always like to, note, we're Green Mountain Solar, we're not Green Mountain Heat Pumps. We provide heat pump knowledge as well as basic heat pump installations. So if it's a slam dunk heat pump project, if it's an outside, inside wall matching up, and we can send an extra installer that day to put a heat pump in, we're glad to handle that. If it's something that's gonna be 6 bedrooms with different heads coming off of the same compressor and whatnot, we actually refer that out to heat pump specialists.
Awesome. And then just one other data point, I mean, we looked at the interest in battery technology for folks' homes. For heat pumps, it was even higher, so we asked folks, how likely are you to consider purchasing a heat pump for your home? And that those people who were extremely likely or likely to purchase was 50%. And I think really the driver there is the desire to electrify, increase the energy efficiency of homes. I know we have a lot of old homes in Vermont that have very old antiquated systems for heating and cooling, and this is a way to kind of build home resiliency with your heating and cooling system.
And EV chargers, we also install those are becoming much more popular. It really just takes an electrician to know what he's doing, so. Again, this is something we'll do for a customer of ours if it's a easy installation. If it's something that's a little too involved for our team, if it's gonna take more than a day, we'll probably, recommend Aldine of Broad Peak Electric, or another local electrician that can focus more on this and just focus on this. We kind of look at things as a prioritization of like, hey, you can install more batteries and solar, let's do that. And if we can do these extra things, that's great to help with the customer, but that's not what we're focusing on. Questions that weren't already asked, please. I know we just had somebody join. Aaron, you wanna jump in with anything? This has been recorded, you can check it all out when Angela posts it.
Awesome.
I would really like to say thank you. Very candidly, I wasn't expecting to be as enthralled by the presentation as I am. I've got 4 properties that are probably like that conversation. We did 3 of which are on my business partner side. Look at that. This, what probably sells me to look at is a combination of either being tax incentives is a big thing.
Definitely.
Yeah, I know personally I want to balance it right by the environment as well as keeping more of the dollars.
There could be multiple things that are ways.
Yeah.
I'd love to follow up with you and so see if I have.
Shannon, what's the best way to have people get in touch if they're interested in one of these systems or talking to you and find more email?
I find emails great because then I can actually grab other people from the team to schedule you out with either myself or another one of my colleagues in a timely fashion.
Excellent. Maybe we have a 1 o'clock.
Oh, great.
We'll jump right in. Angela,
So they're gonna get a little bit of solar.
we get a little bit of solar.
There you go.
Well, Angela, I thank you for bringing up the topic, because again, and I hope you guys don't see this all, I was installed to begin with, I'm stoked now, because I see great way to help the environment, great way to maximize tax benefits, and also better climate plans.
Exactly, and we know folks come back and watch these, so we'll get this posted. The lead paint one we did like a few months ago has had like more views than any other seminar we've done, so, and nobody was on that one, so don't.
I know, this was great. I enjoy these
Thank you.
groups. This was a wonderful, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Here, what you might do is a sign note too to help the business, again, I found a lot of value coming out from over sharing or contributing. You might find ways, you might submit this for continuing ed. Now, I'm a firm believer in taking education to grow, but there's a reasonable amount who will take the amount and maybe happens in the profession as well. Takes the required continuing education, that's that. But I think you could probably get this approved for CE by the Real Estate Commission as well.
That's a great idea.
Process,
Awesome.
Rosie would be happy to share. Yeah.
Yeah,
Great.
Rosie could help with that. I'll reach out.
Yeah,
to her.
she's done most of the ones I've done.
Amazing.
Excellent, really appreciate it.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you.
Yeah, great speaking with you. Good stuff.
Looks like we all got a piece to go.
Oh, yeah.
I encourage
I'm
anybody's
smelling the
hungry, make
pizza.
themselves. Been in the motorcycle market, selling carbs. Right now, the carbs are winning.
Good.
I could probably have it stop recording on one of these.
That's probably the one right here. Let's do this.
Oh, but
Yeah,
Yeah.
You guys